All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the webinar. Um, my name's Keith. I am the founder of SegMetrics. If you're joining this webinar, you probably know that. For the last 10 years, I've been working as a conversion rate optimization expert, mainly working with clients like Eben Pagan, Ramit Sethi, people like that, to help them improve their technology, to improve their marketing funnels, and to understand how people are really interacting with those marketing funnels. And by the nature of things, that takes a lot of data, that takes a lot of understanding what influences people to do different things to eventually become customers on their funnels. So that's what I'm going to kind of go into today on this call, which is improving lead value and acquisition cost and talking about that. Couple of housekeeping notes. This presentation is about 40 minutes. There will be a replay afterwards. And we are also, hi Ian, glad to have you as well. And then I'll also be taking questions throughout the presentation. So if you have any questions, please put them in that chat. And then after it's done, we'll go through and answer as many of those as I can. All right, so just sit back, and I'm going to turn off my video because I am a pacer, and you do not want to see me pacing through this entire thing. All right. All right, so what we're going to talk about today is improving lead value and acquisition costs. And specifically, we're going to be doing this for digital marketers and digital marketing. So anyone involved in that sphere, whether that if you're an agency or you have your own business or something like that, anyone who's using this for digital marketing, I think is going to get a lot of value out of this talk. The end goal is, as we mentioned earlier, to turn visitors into leads and then turn those leads into customers. In order to do that, you really need to look at two core metrics. And this is one of the things that I think a lot of people, one of the mistakes that a lot of people make when they start trying to optimize their marketing and to improve their marketing, they start looking at everything. And looking at everything is a great way to fail because you just can't optimize everything at once. You have to focus down into things. So that's going to be, as we go through this, a recurring theme you're going to see over and over. So let's talk about the two main core metrics that we're going to look at as we're trying to improve our marketing funnel. So the first one is going to be lead value. All right. So very simply, lead value is the average amount of money you can expect anyone on your list to generate. And usually this is somewhere from $1 to maybe $10, $20, $100, depending on how effective and how valuable the things on your list are. All right. And it's easy to calculate. You calculate it by taking the amount of money earned in a funnel divided by the number of leads who have completed that funnel. Very easy. So if I make $1,000 off of 100 people, each lead was worth $10. So I had a $10 lead value. All right. You increase your lead value by selling more to the same number of leads or by increasing the number of people who purchase. Right? Very simple. So if I had those same 100 people and they bought $2,000 worth of stuff, each lead is now worth $20. If I had those same 100 people, but I got more of them to purchase, if I got twice as many to purchase, I would also make $2,000 more. If I got twice as many people to purchase and also increase the price, I'd get $4,000. So you can see how, very simple calculation, number of people in, how much did they buy, you divide that, and that gets you your lead value. All right. And the important thing here is increasing lead value makes you more money with the same number of leads. All right. So in those calculations we just kind of went through, at no point did I say, oh, we have more leads, right? I was either increasing revenue or the amount that I was selling them, or I'm increasing the number of people who purchased. All right. And that's a very important thing to realize, because if you are able to increase your lead value, you don't have to increase your lead acquisition cost, which is what we're going to talk about now. Acquisition cost. So acquisition cost is how much money or effort it takes to acquire a lead through all your marketing channels. It's really simple if you have only one traffic source, but it gets more complicated if you have multiple areas influencing the lead generation, right? So if you have one opt-in, that comes in from Facebook ads that goes through a single funnel and converts, then it's very simple to calculate this, right? But if you have people coming in through multiple funnels that maybe have multiple touch points, maybe they see multiple ads, maybe some people are social, they go through retargeting, that acquisition cost can get much more complicated. And one thing to note here is that acquisition cost is not just a monetary value. Acquisition cost also brings in time. If it takes me 3 months of work to get one of my articles in a publication, or let's say on Lifehacker or Yahoo Finance or somewhere, and we get a bunch of leads, I still need to understand that acquisition cost of how long did it take me and how much did it cost me as far as salary or not being able to focus on other things to get those leads. So even if it's a quote-unquote free lead and I'm not paying $1 per lead or whatever, there's still an acquisition cost to be had. And this is very important specifically because we don't have unlimited time and we don't have unlimited effort. We need to be able to understand and focus our marketing efforts in order to get that acquisition cost down. All right? So you decrease your acquisition costs by improving the target of your ads or your marketing influence, right? So let's say that I am selling a baking product and I work very hard to get placed in Engineering Monthly. My acquisition cost is going to be super high compared to the amount of leads I get because I'm not hitting the right niche. And this goes to Facebook ads as well. If my Facebook ads, if my product is targeting women from age 50 to 60 and I'm sending ads to teenage males, I'm not going to have a very good acquisition cost. It's going to take me a lot of money to get leads because I'm not hitting that right audience. All right. So here's the key. Decreasing acquisition costs gives you more leads for the same cost. All right. So we now see that we're looking at two different sides of the equation. The acquisition cost is how do we get more leads cheaper. Then that lead value is how do we make the number of leads we get more valuable. All right. And one thing that we really need to understand, I mentioned this a little bit earlier and I'm going to reiterate it again. I'm probably going to reiterate it a couple more times before we finish this talk, is that lead value and acquisition costs are cohort specific. All right. A lot of people say, oh, what's the lead value of your list? And it's like, that doesn't matter. It 100% doesn't matter unless you have a single lead source and a single marketing funnel that people are going through, right? But even then, it really doesn't matter so much. Looking at your whole list is just a feel-good number. So let's say you have one lead source, let's say Facebook ads. You have one opt-in and you have one marketing funnel. Does that overall lead value mean anything? To a degree, yes. But let's say you have a $3 lead value. Is that good? Well, you're spending less than that to get a lead, so yeah, it's good. But it doesn't tell you how you're going to optimize. It doesn't tell you how you're going to improve that lead value because it's a generalization. So what I would do at that point is I'd say, okay, everyone's coming in from these Facebook ads. Why don't we split up the Facebook ads into different cohorts? So let's say we have, let's say, very simply, that's across all industries. Let's do male and female, and then let's do age brackets for each of them. So we'll have maybe 18 to 20, or 18 to 20, 18 to 30, and then we'll probably have a 30 to 45, and then a 45 to 60, and a 60 up, right? And then we'll do that for males and females. And we have all this information from Facebook anyways. Now we can start looking at our lead value and acquisition cost for each of those cohorts. And these don't have to be those types of demographics. We could also do it by interest. It's like, are people who are interested in A more likely to convert and have a higher lead value and lower acquisition cost than people who are interested in B? And we can do this segmentation here and then measure them separately and say, look at this. Men age 40 to 50 are twice as likely to convert and have twice the lead value of any of our other cohorts. Well, maybe we should focus more on this or figure out why are people converting. Maybe we should focus more on that, but also build a product or some marketing funnel that applies better to a different demographic or a different niche or a different industry, right? So that gives us a way to now have a marketing strategy on how we can improve that. When we're just looking at that top level number and saying, okay, our lead value is $3. Well, what does that mean? It doesn't give us anything actionable to go at, right? All it's saying is, hey, we have a number. It's a number that's less or that's more than what we're spending. Our value is higher than our acquisition cost, so awesome. But it doesn't tell us where to go next. And so that's really what's important, is kind of breaking things down. All right. And as I've been saying, feel-good numbers don't improve your marketing. Feel-good numbers are just there to make you feel good. You have to drill down in order to understand what you are going to improve. All right. If your number's too broad and you obscure both underperforming and overperforming marketing funnels, right? So everything's just generalized. You don't find the outliers that are really underperforming, and you don't find the outliers that really are overperforming. So you can't understand which of them are doing well and which of them are doing bad. It's important, just like your cohorts, to understand the KPIs for each touch point to know if they're working or not. Right? Just like we don't want to look at the overall cohorts and lump everyone together as leads, and we want to break people up into like, what are they interested in, what's their age demographic, etc. We want to do the same thing with our touch points in our marketing funnel. So these are things like, which opt-in perform better? Do people who attend a webinar do better or worse than people who don't? If they see the replay, how does that affect them? Do people who responded to emails to me get a higher lead value? Do they have a higher chance of converting? So being able to look at each point in your marketing funnel, including the acquisition, and measure that separately is how you start improving it, because that's going to show you those outliers, right? So going back to what we were just looking at, the outliers, the underperformers and the overperformers, let you understand what you are doing right and what you are doing wrong in your marketing funnel. Trying to improve everything makes things messy. You can't, just like we were looking at the lead value of $3, that doesn't tell us anything. And trying to say, okay, I'm going to do A, B, C, and D, and E, and we're going to try F and some Z just to mix things up, you have no idea what you're doing, right? There's too much going on for you to measure it effectively, because once you do all those things, you will not know which of them had an impact. If you're doing 3 or 4 tests at the same time on the same cohort, then you're not going to know which one actually had an impact. Now, you can do different tests on different cohorts, on different people, on different things. You can have multiple tests running at the same time, but you can't test and improve everything at the same time, because A, it's just too complicated and it's hard to keep track of everything, and then B, you're not going to know which of your efforts actually were moving the needle and which ones were just there, right? The important thing is to focus on one thing at a time to improve your funnels. And I always look at this, I was going to say as a funnel, it is a funnel. And you need to look at which part of your funnel is currently having problems, and then look at that part and try to fix that part first. So like I said, I've been doing this consulting for a while now, well before we started SegMetrics. One of the things I always got is clients coming to me and saying, hey, I need to fix the conversion of my funnel. It's not converting. I'm like, okay, we can look at that. And then we go and look at their funnel, and they only get 10 people coming in a week. I was like, well, you only have 10 people coming in. How do you know if it's converting or not? 10 people a week. In order to test anything and improve stuff, it's going to take you months and months to be able to understand if any of the changes are having an impact, just because there's so few people coming through. What you need to do is increase the number of people coming into the funnel. So you go one step up and look at the offers, and you say, okay, how many people are opting in for this? And we got 10 per week. Well, how many people are looking at the page? And you say, well, we only have 20. It's like, that's great. That's a 50% conversion rate. That's huge. That's amazing. I wish I had 50% conversion rate from a visitor to a lead. But that only means that we're getting 20 people to this page a week. So how do we get more people to this page? Well, we're running ads. It's like, well, we need to, they're not converting, obviously. So that's where we need to focus first, is on these, on the traffic, on the ads, and how we're getting people to this page. And that page conversion rate, that opt-in rate, is going to go down, of course, because right now it's 50%, and that's not sustainable when you scale. But in order to fix that conversion rate and understand what is making people buy and what's not, you have to have more people come in than 10 a week, right? And that's what I'm talking about here. You can't optimize a part of your marketing funnel until you have fulfilled the step before it. You can't optimize pricing until you have people seeing the sales page. You can't optimize people seeing the sales page until you have leads coming through the funnel. You can't optimize the leads coming through the funnel until you have a good opt-in that's converting. You don't have a good opt-in magnet unless you have traffic, right? So that's the standard funnel that you go down. And looking at that and analyzing it like that helps you improve that marketing so much better to focus on the specific step that you need to focus on for that funnel. All right. So let's get a little bit into the nitty-gritty. So we've talked about the why, we've talked about the high-level strategy. Now let's talk specifically about how we are going to improve that lead value and that acquisition cost. All right. So we're going to look at this in two ways. So let's look, as we were talking about, a simple cohort. We're going to start really simple. We're going to start with people from Facebook ads. Simple cohort. We understand exactly what's coming in. We can track that. All right. Well, it gets a little complicated because what if we have a complex cohort? People from Facebook ads who are in the 30 to 50 demographic, who opt in for a checklist, who are in the split test A campaign, and who register for a webinar. All right. So it's very easy when we had a simple cohort to get the value here. It gets a little bit more difficult here. Now, it doesn't matter if your cohort is simple or complex. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter if we are measuring just Facebook people or we are really drilling down into specific items. It really only matters that it effectively matches what you want to improve. If you are looking, if you're just starting and you are saying, okay, we need to improve these Facebook ads, we need to improve our lead generation, then that first simple cohort is a great starting point. That's where you're going to want to start, because if you get too detailed and you get too into the weeds, you're going to not have enough people there. You're not going to have the right data. You need to focus on one thing. You need to start simple. All right. So what we're going to do here is we're going to create two reports to be the cornerstone of our marketing. The first one we're going to create is this funnel lead value. This is going to tell us how our campaigns are performing and what we can tweak to improve it. All right. The second one is this lead source ROI. So ROI, return on investment, tells us if we're making our money back from our marketing effort. So this is essentially what we were talking about earlier. We have an acquisition cost. We have an amount of money that we are spending in order to get a lead, and we want to know, are we making more money than we're spending? All right, so let's build this thing. So what we're going to do a simple cohort manually, and then I'm going to show you how to do a more complex cohort. All right. So here's what we're going to want to do. In order to track this, we're going to create a new landing page and a form that only is being visited from people from Facebook. All right, this is how we're going to measure the real lead generation. Do not trust the Facebook numbers. The Facebook numbers, there's so many things that can go wrong. The pixel could not fire on your page. It could be misconfigured. People coming into the thank you page and who have opted in may already be on your list, and Facebook doesn't know that. So they might double count people and say, oh yeah, you got a new lead, but really that person was already on your list. So what we want to do here is take out any of the JavaScript, any of the third-party communication, any of that, and fully understand that anyone who opts into this form and is a new lead is going to be a new lead from Facebook. All right, it's very similar to if you use Facebook ads for your revenue reporting, it doesn't know how much money is in your bank, right? But if you tie that together with your shopping cart, you know to the penny how much money you got from each person, right? So that's what we're kind of doing here, is we are removing any doubt and any mishaps that could happen because of a misconfiguration, right? So then we're going to create a tag called lead source Facebook that we're going to apply to every lead who opts into that form. Again, we're just making sure we are able to track this thing 100%, make sure there are no errors anywhere. Lastly, add everyone who opts into that form to our existing sales funnel that we're going to work on to improve. All right, so what's going on here? So we have a landing page, we have a form, and we have a tag that is applied to everyone from Facebook who comes in. So we have an ad going to the specific page. No one else should ever see this page, so we know that everyone coming through this is Facebook, and then we're sending them through our existing funnel with everyone else. And that's important because we're going to do a comparison in a moment. All right, let's go into this thing. All right, so let's pull this together. So let's get our lead value. So we're going to run this test for about 2 weeks, and then we're going to pull the report from our CRM. We're going to get the total number of leads in the funnel who have the lead source Facebook tag, all right? And that's that 1487, all right? Then we're going to get the number of leads in the funnel who have the lead source Facebook tag and were created in the last 2 weeks. These are the new leads from Facebook, all right? Now, for both of these groups, we're going to see how much revenue they brought in, and that's that sales number. That's our revenue number. Then we're going to divide the revenue by the number of leads to get our lead value. All right. Now we can see here that we have $4.85 lead value for Facebook, but new leads coming in from Facebook are $6.77. All right, so that means that new leads coming in from Facebook are much more valuable than the general lead. All right, so what does that mean about the old ones? Well, our old leads, we had 515, and we're getting this number just by subtracting, right? We have 632 old sales. Old lead value is $1.23. So our new leads are 5 times as valuable as our old leads. That means that people who are already on our list are really not worth anything to this in this Facebook cohort, right? And this could be for a number of reasons. This could be because they were already on the list and they've already seen the offer. It could be because they already bought it. There's a number of reasons that this could happen. But at the end of the day, what we know here is that our value here is not good for our old leads. So now we're going to calculate our Facebook ROI. So we know how much our leads are worth, but are we making more money than we spend? All right, so let's calculate our ROI. First, we look at our lead value from the previous report, all right? And that was 1487. Unfortunately, in Facebook, there's no way to see who is a new lead versus an old lead, so we'll be comparing against the total value. And this will get us close enough for this initial cohort. So we compare how much we spend per lead versus our lead value to get our cost per acquisition. So you see how much we spent was $5,212. We've made $7,000 off of the Facebook leads. Awesome, we're doing well. Our total ROI is 138%. Cost per acquisition is $3.50. And you can see that because we spent $5,000 and we got 1,400 leads. So that's our cost per acquisition. All right. Then we divide how much we made versus how much we spent on ads to get our ROI. All right. Very simple calculation. So let's do it for the new leads now. So this is what we really want to look at. So let's do a back of the napkin calculation for our ROI for new leads coming in from Facebook. New leads make up 65% of our leads, so we'll multiply the ad spend by 65%. Now, like I said, this is not 100% accurate, but it's going to be close enough for the calculation that we're looking to do. As expected, CPA is the same because we spent the same amount and we made the same amount of money, but our ROI gets a 40% increase. We're looking at a almost 200% ROI, right? We're making almost double what we're spending to acquire new leads. So for every old lead we bring in, we are losing $1.80. For every new lead we're bringing in, we're gaining almost $4. So that is the benefit of understanding how these people are coming into our marketing system and understanding our cost per acquisition versus our lead value. All right. So let's put this all together and compare it against our average list performance. Now you'll remember we went through this and made sure that these people were going through that same marketing funnel as our normal leads, right? And the reason we want to do that is because we want to be able to compare. If we had two different marketing funnels where they're getting different messaging, it's not an apples to apples comparison, and we can't understand the real value. So let's look at this whole list. So right here we have our total Facebook leads, new Facebook leads, existing Facebook leads. We already looked at those. We're going to add into that our total non-Facebook leads, new non-Facebook leads, and our existing Facebook leads. All right. So look at this. Our new Facebook leads have a conversion rate of 7% and a lead value of $6.77. That is head and shoulders above anything else. Total Facebook leads has similar, but that's because new Facebook leads is included in that. If we look at our standard non-Facebook leads, we're looking at $1.79. Even if we're looking at new non-Facebook leads, we're looking at only $2. So we have a lead value. We make 3 times as much from new Facebook leads as we do from our normal users, and we convert at higher than 3%. We have a conversion rate of 7%. So what did we learn from this? New leads are a great source of revenue, but existing leads, not so much. And we see that in both of these. Look, our new non-Facebook leads still make $2.15, while our existing ones are worth 73 cents. So Facebook or not, new leads are much more valuable than existing leads. Either our existing leads have been pitched to death, or we're not giving them a product that appeals to them. So these are two big problems, especially if you only have one product. If they've already been through your marketing funnel and they have purchased, they're not going to buy the same product again. And if they haven't purchased, they've already seen the offer. And maybe just lowering the price isn't enough to get them to convert. You have to find some other offer or something to appeal to them. We're spending much more to reacquire those existing leads than they're worth. And we talked about that a couple of minutes ago. We were saying the amount we spend to get a lead doesn't change in Facebook, right? Whether they're existing or whether they're new, Facebook doesn't care that they're new or old, right? It's only how they're going through that campaign. So we're spending that same, I believe it was $3 to acquire each of them, and that makes us lose money on any of the existing customers that are coming in from Facebook, right? Facebook ads are giving us better returns than our standard list, which means we can scale that channel effectively, right? So this is the fourth thing that we learned here. So just from looking at this simple cohort with this simple calculation, we've learned 4 very important things that are going to inform how we do our marketing going forward. So what are we going to do? What should we do next? We need to create a custom audience of our existing leads and make sure that our general ads are not being shown to them, right? Because they are dragging down that value. They increase our cost of acquisition, and they lower the lead value of our cohort. So what we want to do is we want to make sure they're not in that cohort. Existing lead sources are still a good revenue source for this funnel as long as we can reduce our acquisition cost. You'll remember that they were not buying, they just weren't buying as much or as well as our new leads. So if we can reduce that acquisition cost to below $1, then they are still valuable. So one of the things we can do here, because we know who they are, they're on our list, we can send them retargeting ads. Now retargeting ads, if you're not aware, are ads that are pushed to people who you already know, who you have an interaction with, and they are, because they are retargeted and they're going to people you already know and who knew your brand, they are much cheaper to run than standard ads. So this is a way to lower the acquisition cost while still providing good reporting and good numbers into our marketing funnel. We should also look at how these leads act on the funnel to see if different product offers or marketing tools will give us better returns. And this is something that we had looked at or talked about a little bit, which is maybe they've already seen the offer. Maybe they're not interested in the product. Maybe these people who are already on the list have some other problem that we can solve. So these people who are already on the list are not a lost cause. They just need to be talked to in a different way than our other customers. All right. So we went through this report. We set this all up. We went through this, and it took about 10 minutes to go through. And I wasn't even pulling any of the numbers. I was just talking about what we had found because I had done all this reporting and stuff beforehand. And to be honest, it took me about 30 minutes to an hour to get all these numbers together. All right. So there's a couple of problems with this approach. The first is that it's not scalable. I have to create a different form and tag for every lead source, right? So I had to create a form, I created a tag, hooked it up to the marketing, I hooked up the ads to go to that, and then I had to wait 2 weeks for results. It's time intensive. There's a lot of manual data pulling from multiple systems. I had to pull it from Facebook, I pulled it from my CRM, and I pulled it from my revenue source, and then I had to merge all that data together in Excel. And this is only a single simple cohort. We're still only looking at one cohort from a single lead source. What if we looked at that complex cohort that we had talked about, where they're on a specific campaign, or they are watching a webinar, or they have come in from a certain demographic? As our business grows, this quickly becomes untenable to keep reporting like this, because it took so long to do a single cohort, a very simple cohort, and get one report. Now we're reporting on multiple marketing funnels, multiple efforts. It's just, you spend all day reporting. All right. If only we had a perfect tool, or at least something that could make this reporting go a little bit faster. All right. So what are the 4 things we need? 1, we need to track lead sources without setting up new tags or forms for each one, because that is going to become untenable very quickly. If we have to set up a separate form and tag for everything that every lead source that people come from, I'm going to have one from Facebook for this ad, for this demographic, for this interest, and I'm just going to have thousands of tags and forms. So that's right out. We can't use that. We need to be able to calculate our KPIs, and that was leads, conversion rate, revenue, lead value, ROI, etc. automatically. I don't want to keep pulling these numbers and putting them into a calculator in Excel each time, right? We also want to be able to filter our cohort in real time and break down the data by different dimensions. So this is, as we are looking at that more complex cohort, we want to be able to say, here's my cohort from Facebook. Now what happens if I filter only by the people from 40 to 50? How do they compare to this different cohort, to this different demographic? So we want to be able to do this essentially in real time. And then we want to bring our ad spend from Facebook to compare ROI. And this is, in our CRM, we have the number of leads. We may or may not have the revenue, but we definitely don't have the cost it took to bring in these ads or these leads into our marketing campaigns. So what we want to do is be able to merge those all together. Now, here again is that complex cohort, right? So we're looking at people from Facebook who are in the 30 to 50 demographic, who opt in for the checklist, and who are in the split test A campaign, and who register for a webinar. So these are the 5 aspects, the 5 dimensions of our cohort that we want to find out, because we want to start comparing these to our main cohorts or to other dimensions, so that we can understand if we are targeting the right people and if we should target them more or go to a different cohort. We want to be able to say, are people from Facebook doing better or worse than organic? Are they doing better or worse than our Google ads? What about this 30 to 50 demographic? Are they doing better or worse than our younger demographic or our older demographic? How is that? People who opt in for the checklist, how are they performing against other items or other opt-in magnets that I might have that are performing maybe better at different demographics? Does the 30 to 50 demographic respond better to the checklist than a younger demographic, or do the 30 to 50 demographic respond better to maybe a webinar opt-in, right? So now we have all these demographics and all these dimensions that we can look at and tear this down. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to open this up real quick, and we're just going to go through this whole thing, and I'm just going to show you how I'm going to pull this report together and then do the same learnings that we had done on that simple cohort for this more complex one. All right, so let's kind of dive in. And first, I want to recreate that initial report that we had created there, just so that we can kind of do a comparison of how you would do that Facebook cohort. So as you can see here, we have everyone created in this date range, lead value of $56.13, right? So then let's look and just get the people who are from that Facebook ad. So this is the new people that are clicking that Facebook account coming in from Facebook, and we see a lead value of $46. And compare that to what we were seeing as our general lead value. We're seeing a huge lead value here from increase in lead value from our Facebook ads. So the other thing that we were looking at was, well, what about people who are old but are still clicking on those ads and then coming in? So what we're going to look at is people who were already on our list, then they clicked the Facebook ad and came into this funnel within this last month. And we get that same number. We're seeing this number of, okay, existing users, existing leads who are coming back onto the list from those ads and then going through the funnel are only worth $15, right? So we're seeing that same number that we were looking at before. We're just able to do it so much quicker. So now that we know how to grab these numbers, we can then save these reports. And I've already saved a couple of these. And we can look at this in our sequence cohort. And now we have this all on an updating dashboard. So we can say, okay, this is our total lead value. These are our new Facebook leads. These are, this name is wrong. This should be Facebook old lead value. So now we can see, okay, this is how much a new lead is worth. This is how much an old lead is worth. And then we get those numbers as well. So we can kind of go through all this and have this updating dashboard constantly. All right, so let's go back here, because what we really wanted to do was look at this complex cohort. And we specifically want to look at how our different demographics are performing within this ad. So let's go into our ad reporting real quick. And this is going to give us a really easy way to break it down by our ad set. So now what we can do here is we can look at, okay, here we're looking at new contacts that have clicked one of our Facebook ads. And you can kind of see our ad spend, ad clicks, all that information. And then we're going to break it down by the ad set. And what we're going to be able to say is, okay, look at each of these ad sets that we have, and what's our ROI that we're getting for each of these. And it's interesting to see our ad ROI for the age 20 to 29 is outperforming the other ones by a huge margin. Look at this. So we have ad cost per acquisition. So this is our CPA, how much it costs us to get a lead is $10. All these ads are performing very well. 30 to 50 is actually not performing as well as we would like. 50 to 51, age 20 to 29 is really our overall performer. So originally we were going to look at that 30 to 50 demographic, but let's look a little bit more at this 20 to 29 demographic, just so that we can break that down and see how people are acting on that funnel. So what we're going to do, we're going to go back to our original report, and we're going to say, okay, I want to see everyone in the ad set, and that was our 20 to 29, and again in the date range. So we're only looking at new contacts who are coming into this date range. All right, and we see there we have that really high lead value of $66. All right, so what we want to know from here is how many of these people are opting in for the checklist. So what we can do is we can say, okay, anyone who gets that checklist is going to have a tag. So we've got 477 people, lead value 66. Let's find the people who are downloading that checklist. Interesting. So people who download the checklist are now worth $87 as compared to our general lead value from these people. Now we have only half the leads, but the lead value has increased by about $20 per lead. So this makes me a little bit more curious. What are some other things that they could do on this funnel in order to increase their lead value? So what I want to do is take what we are looking at, and let's do starts with. So I've tagged every action within my funnel with a touch point tag in my CRM. So what this is going to allow us to do, we're going to pull this in, and I'm going to look at how people are going through my funnel, because I now have all the tags that they will put on here. So we can look at things like, and let's just do by lead value. So purchase, of course, is going to have the highest lead value because those are actual customers. We're going to see people who are attending the replay are very valuable. People who attend are much more valuable than people who register. And look at this difference. So people who come to download the checklist, worth $84 per lead. People who attend that webinar are worth almost double, $160 per lead for a registration. And if we get them to attend, it's at $192. Now that's really amazing. And so what this tells me is that I should do everything in my power to get people to go from that checklist to that webinar. And this can be things like sending them SMS messages, sending them reminder emails, anything I can do to get them on this phone, on the webinar is going to be a more valuable piece of marketing that I can do. So let's look at two other pieces that we had talked about in that complex cohort, and one that we hadn't. One is this split test, and this is this funnel right here. So let's change this up a little, and we're going to look at people who are going through either funnel A or funnel B. And it's really interesting to see here that funnel B has a lead value of $17. Well, funnel A has an average lead value of $111. So what this is telling me is that these Facebook leads really love funnel A, and it's performing very well there. And you just look at the conversion rate. It's an 18% conversion rate versus a 3% conversion rate. So as people at this age 20 to 29 from Facebook go through this funnel, this is something that they are very interested in. This is highly outperforming funnel B. And what funnel A and funnel B is just different emails and different campaigns that I'm sending people down. So this is a much higher converting funnel as I'm split testing that. So one of the things I can do, we've looked at what if they are in this age range and they're Facebook, but what if they are not? Well, let's compare that lead value. So we got 111 and 17 versus our non-Facebook traffic. So let's remove those real quick. So let's look at how that's performing. So we look down and we don't see a flip, but what we do see is that funnel B is actually performing much better with our non-Facebook traffic than it is with our Facebook traffic. Now funnel A drops a lot. And any of these reports, any of these things that we have, we can then create and save on that dashboard that we were just looking at. So we can come here and we can say, okay, here's all of our leads, here's what's coming in, and then we can bring that in as a snapshot or a table and say, okay, how is this performing? How is this performing over time? And really stay up to date on what our marketing strategies are, how they're performing over time. All right. Well, I hope that helped. I hope that you learned a lot there, and I hope I was able to show you both why it's important to be able to drill down into specific cohorts and how understanding how your cohorts are performing and how those segments are performing is going to make you a better marketer and helps you improve your marketing overall. Like I had said in the beginning, if you just look at your list as a single cohesive unit, you're not going to be able to improve anything because there's nothing to latch onto. When everything has been flattened by averages, you're not going to be able to get any good data. What you need to look for are the outliers. You want to look for the cohorts that are doing incredibly well and the cohorts who are doing incredibly poorly. And the people who are doing incredibly well, you want to find more of those. And the people who are doing incredibly poorly, you want to figure out why they're doing so poorly and either fix things so that they do better or just remove that cohort entirely and not focus on them and not spend the acquisition costs. I can go on through this stuff for hours because honestly, I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating how just digging out these little diamonds in the rough, right, can remarkably improve your marketing and just give you something to latch onto to really just kick it all into high gear. Whew. All right. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed the presentation. A couple of things that I did notice. I did refer to the, and Ian, you had mentioned that the custom audiences as retargeting. Every system uses the vernacular a little bit different. Custom audience, there's a lookalike campaign. So you have a custom audience, which is your actual people. You have a lookalike campaign, which is people who are similar to those emails that you put in. And then there's retargeting, which is people who have done something on your site and then come back. I generally consider that whole thing to be called retargeting in most cases, but that's more of a vernacular thing. So we have a couple of questions in the Q&A, and so I am going to open this up a little bit. And wow, we have two Ians in there. That's pretty awesome. So I'm just going to start at the bottom and kind of go up. So one of the questions was, are we counting lead value as the initial value i.e. the first purchase or are we looking at the lifetime value of the customer? That's a really good question, and it really depends on what we are looking to measure. Usually when I'm looking at Facebook ads or the effectiveness of a campaign, I want to look at the lifetime value within that campaign. So how many did they buy an upsell? Did they buy a downsell? Did they buy the 2-week later offer, etc.? Because I'm mainly looking at focusing on that campaign itself. Now, if I am looking at the ads overall and I want to say, well, how do these things perform over time? And this is especially beneficial when we are looking at affiliates or other lead sources where we want to look at a long-term plan. Then what I want to do is generally look at that lifetime value, the whole value of people who have come on there. Now, you may realize that that number changes over time. And especially for things like Facebook ads, you want to know how much money you're making back from your investment. And so if it takes you 8 months, a year, 2 years to make back that money that you invest in the first time, it's not going to be as useful. You might say, oh, look, these people were worth 200 ROI after a year. But do you really want to wait that year to get that? You probably want to look at a shorter time frame, generally 2 weeks to a month, maybe 2 months, depending on your flow. Now, one thing that we did have that was really interesting, we were working with a customer and they got put into a giant, into a news site like Forbes. It wasn't Forbes, but like Forbes. And they had so many leads coming in that I think they had like 50,000, 60,000 leads in less than a couple of hours. And champagnes were flowing, like corks were popping. It was wonderful. And then they realized that no one ever converted. And so all these leads they had, they were probably making a penny a lead, something like that. And so everyone was upset. They spent all this time trying to get into this article, blah, blah, blah. And then 3 months later, 6 months later, they looked at it again over time and says, well, the initial value was horrible. The purchase rate was in the gutter. But if we look at these people as they were warmed up over time on these special sequences we sent them on these different touch points and engagements, then they became more and more valuable over time. And that was something that really goes back to, it's important to know what question you are looking to answer and how quickly you need that answer, especially with the Facebook ads. If you're spending $100 per lead, you want that money to come back within the first two weeks or 4 weeks. You can't wait 6 months to a year for every $100 you spend to finally come back. Very good question. Kai asks, what's a good resource to learn about tagging my funnel with touchpoint tags? That's a great question because I have a very simple answer to that. So we actually have, and I'm putting this in the chat right now, that we have a tagging guide that we talk through that tagging from lead sources, best way to organize your tagging naming structure, as well as how to tag people as they go through the funnels to make sure that you're able to say, okay, this person purchased product A, but did they purchase from this funnel that I'm pitching it from? Did they purchase it a long time ago? Did they just find it on a website somewhere and buy it? Like, just being able to categorize and structure how and where people are coming in and what they're doing there. I have another question that, is there any side-by-side comparison reporting? We are looking at doing that comparison report like you would have in Google Analytics, where it would have one and then the smaller graph underneath it or superimposed on it. Right now, we do not have that. What we generally recommend is putting that into the dashboard and just having one setting be last 30 days and then the next widget being 30 days before that. And so that's something you can definitely set up where you'll be able to compare those numbers or those graphs right next to each other. And if you noticed on the dashboard, it actually did have, this is how it performed per compared to last week or last month or whatever that time frame is. So we do have those comparisons, but we don't have the really cool double chart, which I really do want to get out there soon. Yeah, and one that says here is you really need to define your KPIs to actually understand what ROAs you want from your paid ads, and that's completely true. Like, and it's one of the things that I talked about at the beginning of the presentation that I really believe is that you can't look at these numbers as a whole aggregate. I mean, it's good to look at them at the beginning and say, okay, this is what we got, but you have to drill down because it's those underperformers that you need to fix, and it's those overperformers that you need to redouble your efforts on. Because, especially with SaaS marketing, they talk about product market fit. You have to find a niche or a group, an audience that is going to really use your product and that feature set that is good for the product. And if you're looking across the board, you're just never going to find it. You have to really drill down and say, people who fit this audience like our product. People who don't fit that audience or who fit into this other audience really do like our product. What is it about these people that make them like it? What is it about these people that make them don't like it? Can we change our marketing for these people so that they do like it? And that's really what it comes down to. I think that was all the questions that we had. I want to say thank you to everyone. I know you took an hour out of your day to come and spend it with me. I really enjoy talking about this stuff. As always, I'm going to send out an email after this. And if you have any questions or anything, please give me an email. Yeah, and that's it. I hope everyone has a great rest of the day and talk soon.